Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk about something a little bit different. I wanted to talk about loot systems in Mythic Plus and loot systems in Raiding. It's definitely a topic that comes up very regularly. You have all the raiders who are like, oh, Mythic Raiding should drop the best loot in the game and I should be the one that gets it. And then, of course, the Mythic Plus players who are diehard, you know, running Mythic Plus 10 hours a day, the JBs, the Dr. Js and whatnot. I mean, I'm not going to speak for their opinions, but I'm just saying, like, people like them. They come to the defense of Mythic Plus and say, well, I just want to jump into Mythic Plus, and I want to be able to just do Mythic Plus. So can I just get gear from that? And then I don't have to raid, and I can just play the content that I want to play. And then a bunch of the raiders push back, and they go, no. You shouldn't be able to do that. So I wanted to kind of break this down and talk about it a little bit. I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot of like gameplay to show you today, but I'll just show you a little bit of this, just me flying around. It's funny. I think it's a very like interesting topic. I think for the longest time, raiding was this piece of content that just had the best loot, and that was that, right? Raiding was just the place to get the best gear because it was always the hardest content. And when you didn't have Mythic Plus, so pre-Legion, it kind of made sense because you shouldn't get the best gear in the game from like World Quests or from Heroic Dungeons or from Mythic Zeros, right? Which was the content back then. And then came in challenge modes, and then it was like, hey, we're still not going to give you really good gear from this. We're going to give you cosmetics, but you know, here you go. Here's something at least for your troubles. So it kind of started to add up there a little bit. The content in Dungeons started to get a little bit harder, but still raiding was really the core of where gear came from, which was all fine. But now you have Mythic Plus, and the content is actually challenging to the extent that not everybody can push a plus 30 key. Not everybody can push a plus 25 key. In fact, I'm pretty sure, so I'm sitting at 3.5 right now. And like 3.6. I'm pretty sure at 3.6 I'm in the top 0.1% of all Mythic Plus players in Europe, right? And that's not even particularly that high. Like, that's not even that high. That's mostly 26s and 27s of Mythic Plus, and that's not, in the grand scheme, not even really that high, but it's still high enough where most people in the game aren't achieving that. So you look at that and you say, well, there are more people that are raiding and doing Mythic Raiding and getting that gear. Should more people get good gear from Mythic Plus who are doing those high level keys and whatnot? And I can see both arguments, but I think a lot of people say no, like, oh, raiding should be the top gear, and some people say like Mythic Plus should have some equivalent gear. I don't think anyone's really pushing for Mythic Plus to have equally as high level gear, but higher level gear, but just equally as high. So I don't think people are pushing for like Mythic Plus to be the strongest way to gear. I think they just want to be able to have the gear to then ultimately push when they want to, or to a key level that they want to. But I think it's really kind of like, I think something that's lacking in the community right now that I've kind of explained a bit of the issue, I think something that's kind of lacking in the community is empathy. It feels like for a lot of people, they don't really empathize with the other opinion and the other way that people play the game. And it's kind of a case of, hey, if you don't play the game like I do, then you can fuck off. And that's how a lot of people feel. Well, that's how a lot of people speak to each other. That's the problem. And, like, I get it, but at the same time, right, imagine this scenario. Imagine you like to raid, and you like to raid log. You come in, you do your Mythic Raiding, you get your Cutting Edge, then you farm, re-clear it, and you have your one night a week where you just re-clear it with your buddies. That's amazing. You get the best loot in the game. You get the best stuff. You get all your conduits and everything. That's fantastic. That's awesome. You get your challenge. That's great. But if you're not ever touching Mythic Plus, or even if you are, then why does it affect you if somebody that wants to go into Mythic Plus gets good gear from Mythic Plus? Like, why does that affect you? They're not coming to do the raid against you. They're not competing against you. Like, they just want to do Mythic Plus. For people like myself, right, I don't really want to commit the time to raiding anymore. I want to just be able to jump into Mythic Plus and have good enough gear to be able to do it at the highest level. why does it affect anyone who raids if I have good gear? It doesn't. And I think that maybe that's something that we could push for as a community, to be like, hey, why does it actually matter which content? Like, because everyone has this argument, oh, well, like, raiding's harder than Mythic Plus. No, Mythic Plus is harder than raiding. Who cares? Like, it actually just doesn't matter any way that you look at it, which content is more difficult. The fact is that they both have their challenges, and they're easily both difficult enough where they deserve good gear. So why does it really matter? Now, the one thing I could see, the one downfall of Mythic Plus having really good gear is the fact that then it kind of, it depends on why you raid. Some people raid for gear, which I think is kind of a weird concept. I don't really know why you would ever raid for gear. It seems like a waste of time, because if you're raiding for the gear, then like, what's the point of getting the gear if you've already done the thing that you needed the gear for, right? For me, like, it doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't really check out. But like, if you're doing Mythic Plus, you're doing it because if you're pushing above a 15 key, then you're doing it because you want to push score. So it makes sense that you're actually interested in that content beyond just the loot. So I look at it and I think, well, it could be an issue because Mythic Plus is infinitely farmable. You could log on, you can upgrade this gear with Valor as well. You can log on, you can push Mythic Plus all day, you can get really well geared way quicker than you could in raiding. And I understand that it could encourage a lot of guilds to say, hey, everyone in our roster, you have to go farm Mythic Plus all day, every day to get the gear in order to come raid. And that would be really bad, right? That would be really bad if that happened. Except that already does happen anyway. At the beginning of a season, your guilds are always like, the highly competitive guilds, they're all doing that anyway. But you could put something in place so you could make it so that, like, gear is upgradable with Valor, and Blizzard could, like, cap it. So they could be like, right, so for example, using the item levels of the current stuff, so they could be like, right, gear can scale up to 2.6, like, so they normally put the first week of Mythic Plus, it's the old item level of the previous, like, season. Then once, I think it's, once Mythic releases, then the item level increases again. So there's like this period, there's like this delay period where you can do Mythic Plus, but it's not really super efficient because the item levels increase slightly but capped. And then when Mythic opens, it's like, right, now you can do Mythic Plus and it's uncapped. And then you have this, you have Valor introduced, and then you have a cap of how far you can upgrade your gear. So it's like very staggered, and they could just continue to do that. And they could be like, hey, okay, so until we have the Hall of Fame, 100 guilds on Horde and Alliance, like you, or something like that, they can use some kind of metric to judge it, or like 2 months into the patch, 3 months into the patch, whatever it is. Eventually, Mythic Plus players can upgrade their gear to the highest level. So that would be 278 instead of 272. And then they could have, I don't know, for certain items, ways to get like 285 weapons or something, if it's possible to get those in the raid. That way, it kind of makes it the gearing from Mythic Plus a little bit better in the long run. And eventually, things even out a little bit. And yeah, I think that could be just like a good idea. For me, the main reason for just wanting to make this video is just to discuss this discourse between people who are hardcore raiders and hardcore Mythic Plus players, and this whole like dick measuring contest of whose content is the hardest. I'll be honest, World of Warcraft isn't a difficult game. It's not. When you look at competitive games, you've got competitive RTSs like StarCraft 2, insanely difficult. You've got things like League of Legends. You've got FPSs where people like turn on a dime and no scope headshot people from 500 yards away. Like, World of Warcraft is not a difficult game. So why everyone's doing this dick measuring contest has always just like confused me. Just play the game, dude. And if somebody else is getting good loot from another piece of content that is in its own way very challenging, then let them. That's fine. It doesn't affect you. You don't have to always be, you know, the main person. You don't always have to be the main character in this game. It's okay if other people are getting some good stuff too. Be happy for them. Say, hey, I'm so happy that the Mythic Plus scene is active and poppin', and people can get those rewards that they feel are good. And you know what? I'm over here and I'm raiding, and I'm getting that same satisfaction. We should be more empathetic to the situations of others that play this game with us and want to support the things that they want. Anyway, that was kind of just my like wrap up of this video. I just wanted to make something on it. because I think it's quite a hot topic at the moment. Thought it'd be interesting to talk about. Let me know your comments in the section below. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you'll tell me that rating's harder, or that Mythic Plus is harder, or that PvP is harder. Let's face it, actually, PvP is easily the hardest content in this game. If you really want a dick measure, PvP is infinitely harder than PvE. Like, it's not even a question. Giga Chads play PvP. I do not play PvP. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one. And just Twitch TV, Cyber.